Morning. Actually, it's not morning. Hey guys, Professor Bill, Comic Book University. Why is my beard doing that? Got a little thing there. Yeah, this is what happens when I go live. It's always some last minute thing you see and you're like, what the frig? Anyway, how's everybody doing? I decided to go live with this one because I made one that was 45 minutes long and I'm not going to edit all that. So I just figured, you know what? Screw it. I'm going to do a freaking video that's 45 minutes long. It'll be live, so there's no need to edit stuff out. Let's get talking about all this good stuff. I had been skipping out on comics for a while, too busy with stuff. So I know I reviewed issue number 1 and 2 of the Immortal Thor. I did not review issue number 3 and on, which is a shame. What's up, GT Comics? Um, but I did go back and I read all of these up to issue 7, which just came out Wednesday. So here we go. Yo. Al Ewing is the writer. Martin Coccolo is the artist. Matthew Wilson is the color artist. VC's Joe Sabino on letters, and Alex Ross doing those sexy covers. And we can never forget that Stan Lee and his brother Larry Lieber and Jack the King Kirby created Thor in all of his immortal ways. So with issue 3 and on, we saw that with the first 2 issues, we saw that Toriamos for all I care, this big gigantic freaking god thing. Now this is kind of weird because the way that they explained it later on is that Gaia, who is Thor's mother and was reestablished as Thor's mother. God, that was such an annoying thing. Everybody's like, Bill, I know how much you love like Roy Thomas and all the stuff in the past. Gaia is no longer his mom. Hey Scott. Scuff, what's up? Uh Gaia is no longer his mom. Now it's the Phoenix. I'm like, "God, I knew they were gonna do that. I knew it." I was so mad. Like, that's it. I'm forswearing comics. I'm done. I'm done with Marvel. But they made him his mom again, Gaia. She is one of the elder gods. Think kind of like along the idea of Cthulhu, right? The elder gods and all that stuff. Hey, what's up, John? So good to see you, man. But they're not all perfectly evil. All right. There's still Chthon, right? The founder of magic and vampirism. Writer of Marvel's version of the Necronomicon, right? We've got Set, right? All these ridiculously powerful, evil, monstrous elder gods. And then you got Gaia, who's just like, I'm a nurturer. She found, not created, she found the primordial ooze that would eventually become humans and all life. And she's like, this has to be nourished and nurtured and protected. And all these wars that these gods are doing, this life is so precious, it's going to get destroyed and it may never come back again. It's very unique to this planet. We have to protect it, right? So her prayers, this is in Marvel continuity, her prayers led to Atum, who is one of the elder gods also, and think along Egyptian mythology, Atum and Ra, the god behind the sun. Atum went out and started doing battle with the gods, and he got such a thirst, such an appetite for killing these elder gods that he became what's called the demiurge. Now, this is important-ish because they mention the demiurge in these comics, right? Atum was the demiurge, this elder god who got a lust for killing these elder gods that were evil, just the evil ones, killed them, made himself more powerful. What's up, art chemist? How you doing, brother? And at one point became so powerful that he's just like, the gods are dead, right? Some of them escaped, like the 2 I mentioned, Chthon and Set. They escaped. They left to a different dimension, a different reality to get away from the demiurge. But the ones who stayed, they were all, for the most part, defeated and killed and consumed. He left Gaia alone, who was hiding in the cave and protecting the life. And then he goes off towards the sun. And as he's going up, he kind of shakes off a little dandruff on himself. Some pieces of himself fall off as he's going towards the sun. And those pieces turn into the deity type powers that we know now. Was Bor one of them? Maybe, but Mephisto and Zarathos, these demons, what do you call all these satanists, right? These were created from that what I call the dandruff of demiurge. So all of this stuff is really important to these stories. Now, for some reason, somehow in these books, Toriamos was created or guided or whatever with his big gigantic wagon wheel, which is just so odd because Gaia was like this senseless destruction. I'm freaked out. I need to see um, life. I need just whatever I need. So she made some kind of a deal with Tyrannos. I'm going to get to the comments. I want to finish. I'm almost. I was good. But, I can read this one. Uh, don't NG great happy. I caught you live off topic. Your video a few weeks ago at Silver Surfer was great. Good to see you get hyped to good writing. Ron Mars, man, he's amazing, right? Thank you very much. So I can save you guys from my coughing. My voice still isn't back to normal. Although I can hear a little bit all of a sudden for like the past hour, I can hear a little bit better out of my left ear. So anyway, um, this is the story so far that Gaia actually wished for Tori Amos to be created or whatever to come by and fight. And somehow he's still here. He wasn't killed by the demiurge for some reason. I don't know what's going on. And mind you, this is supposed to be the so-called Utgard Thor. Now, when you get to issue 5, 6, and 7, they start talking a whole lot about the actual Norse mythologies. Around 8th grade, most of us in America, our English classes, they start in the middle of the year or so, or towards the end, they start talking about the Greek mythologies, right? They don't really go into the other mythologies so much, just the Greek ones, which is fine. That was interesting, and of course, there's a lot of people who really got into that a lot and whatever. I always kind of like to walk on the other side of the road on that Robert Frost guy, the path less traveled, right? And I was like, okay, well, I'm always going to have access to these Greek myths. Let me go and see some of the other myths out there. And I found Bullfinch's Norse mythology. A lot of problems with Bullfinch, but a lot of that stuff also got transferred over, and other people. Edith Hamilton started writing about it. A lot of other mythology books came out talking about the Nordic myths. When you read those Nordic myths, there's one story of the time that Thor and Loki came to Earth to kind of hang out for a bit. They took Tooth Gnasher and Tooth Grinder. Boom. This is in the Norse myths, not in the comic books. Although you see that in Ewing's version here in issue number 5, 6, and 7. They land and they come to this household, mother, father, two kids, boy and a girl. I believe the boy was Hody or something like that. Anyway, they said, oh, you guys are poor. Well, we're about to have a meal. You guys can break bread with us. So Thor slaughters his goats, cooks them up, and says, listen, when you guys are finished with the bones, throw them onto the the pelts of my goats. And I'm warning you, don't break any of the bones. Don't you break a single bone. I'm telling you right now, don't do it. They're all like, okay, okay, okay. We promise. We're good. Well, Hoogie or whatever his name is, the young boy, he decides, but I'm hungry. And I really want the tasty marrow inside the bones, which I get it, and make a good bone broth or something like that, bone broth soup. I don't know, I don't care. But he did the no. He did the one thing that Thor said don't do. Well, Thor didn't take liking to that, and he was going to kill the entire family because when he brought the goats back to life, one of the two goats had a limp because that bone was broken. It's like you broke my bone, my goat's bones. I'm gonna bust your butt. He's gonna kill all of them with his hammer. He had Mjolnir at the time. In the comic book, he didn't. So he was like, "It was me. I apologize. Just kill me and don't kill my family." Blah blah. He's like, "I'm not gonna kill you, but I'm gonna make you my slave from here on in." Nowadays, the idea of slavery is, oh my God, this wasn't something that was practiced all over the world. It was only practiced in America, apparently, and America's sinners for doing it, and white people are bad. Or at least that's the stuff that I see in the news. Now, in reality, it was practiced all over the place, including in the Norse myths, and this is just a thing. And it was like, hey, look, slavery in this case actually saved not just his boy's life, but his whole family's life, because Thor, god of thunder, was about to whoop all their butts with a hammer. Mjolnir, of all things. I'm saying I'd rather be a slave than watch my entire family get killed as I'm getting killed also. Just going to put that out there. That being said, not trying to make this political. I think that's the reason why he was taken out of the story. There was the quick little interrupter where it says, "That's not how the story is originally told. There was actually Hughie was in here, but that's not the way this story is being told. It's actually said." So Loki actually mentions that the story is being changed. I really like that. I really like that a lot. Anyway, they go off and they meet Utgard Loki, and this story is based. So Loki got to meet Utgard Loki and all this stuff, and Utgard Loki isn't a different version of Loki. That was just his name. It's like if you meet somebody else named Bill. Oh my God, are you Utgard Bill? No, I'm Bill. That's Bill. There just happen to be people with the same names. So this was Utgard Loki, right? He was the Loki from Utgard. That's all that was. It doesn't mean that there's an Utgard Thor or an Utgard Odin. It doesn't mean any of that stuff, right? So interesting, although not quite my cup of tea. But all that stuff happens in the later on stuff, and you get to see that. Why can't I remember the name of this freaking guy? Does anybody remember the name of the guy who the Minotaur? And he actually was the Minotaur that Theseus fought in the Greek myths. But the Minotaur that we saw so much in Immortal Hulk, and now he's back, but he's undead clearly with all the veins and the sinew coming by. Anyway, that guy, the guy's in charge of Roxxon, who was killed by uh, the original person named the Hulk, the why can't Zemnu, right? He was killed by Zemnu in the most grotesque way imaginable. That was just so nasty. I loved it. Anyway, so this bull, the Minotaur, is back, and one thing I don't like, Enchantress is there, which is awesome. She could have had a different slave guy with her. It didn't have to be freaking Executioner. I hate that they brought back the Executioner. I'm sorry, with all due respect, Executioner, in my mind, he was killed in such a glorious and magnificent way. Nobody could read those Walter Simonson books without shedding a tear when they get to the part where the Executioner sacrifices himself. It's simply impossible, right? That's how good, that's how magnificent that story was, right? He should be Uncle Ben. You don't bring him back. You just don't. It's over, right? And I hated when they brought him back before, and I hate that they're making him evil again now. How do you have somebody have this magnificent death, and then you bring him back and he's evil again? Yeah, I don't. I always said before under Immortal Hulk and Ewing, I trust, but not in this particular case. I'm not trusting Al Ewing in this case. Maybe hopefully he surprises me. Dario Agger, art chemist. I'm so glad you're here, brother. Anyway, so um yeah, later you come to realize that there's the Utgard Loki, the Utgard Thor, and the end of issue number 7, you see that there's the Utgard Odin, which could be interesting, but whatever. It's a different take. I'm not mad that they're doing that stuff. It's just it's different from the Norse mythology while still being a little, close enough. So I'm not mad at that. Like that's cool. I'd love to see that. Also, I have a theory because Loki keeps on changing. Loki is kind of trustworthy, even though he's still the he, she, it on this is still the trickster god. I have a theory. Odin left the hammer. I don't know exactly what happened to him. Thor Storm. I'm gonna get into the Thor Storm thing. Believe that. I promise you that. Um, I'm actually saving that for last. But the idea that Odin left the hammer, maybe he's in Valhalla. Don't know. Don't care. I don't see how God could go to heaven. You get what I'm saying? Odin created Valhalla. It seems weird that he would go to Valhalla if he died, but whatever. It is what it is. Maybe, maybe not. I don't know. I don't know. But what I'd rather see is that Odin actually entered Loki. That's the reason why, in my opinion, in my hopes, my fanfic, I'm hoping that Odin now went into Loki to try and test Loki and to make Loki a better person, to maybe heal the bond between Thor and Loki themselves. I think that's one of the reasons why Loki keeps on shape changing the way that he does. Like he became the girl, he'll become this, he'll become we saw all we even saw the kid version at one point. He keeps on shape changing. And I think that's in a way for him to be able to exercise the idea that I'm still here, right? I'm fighting to be the dominant personality here. There might be something inside him that he doesn't understand, Odin, all wise. But Odin is also a shape changer in and of himself. At the very least, he's really great at disguises, right? So many Norse mythologies, so many stories in the Norse mythology where he would um change and hide and disguise himself as some other traveler. Much like Zeus, he would go down to earth and he would sleep with mortal women, So I mean, there's that, and he would test Thor a lot by doing a lot of shape changing, by disguising himself as some crazy old hermit who was taunting Thor on the other side of a frozen river and stuff like that. Like so many times when he was trying to teach Thor and teach Thor humility was the main thing he had to try and teach him, but he was teaching Thor. Loved that, right? So to see something like that here would actually be really impressive to me. Jay Mucho, what's up? Shout out to the shouts. The way Walt Simonson wrote the execution bee takeout was one of the better moments of his run on Thor. Absolutely. Hopefully, when Odin does come back to Loki, he gives him something to grow his character. Definitely. Jay says, I'm not going to lie, pretty disappointed in Immortal Thor. I have to be honest. I'm feeling you. I'm feeling you. I did ask for people to make a comment really quick on Immortal Thor. I said on Twitter, quick, what do you think about the Immortal Thor run? Mr. Midnight gave the most. He gives pretty good. It was a is this David Crane? I forget the guy who created Seinfeld. Somebody else goes and posts something also. Give me a minute to find that. But Mr. Midnight says a whole bunch. He says, that being said, I really hope Donald Blake returns and is redeemed. Hell, even merged back with Thor because that partly was what got me to read Thor back when Straczynski started it. Also, Civil War. Danny Cates' run is awesome, and the Percy arc, or the Prey arc, might be my favorite in that. Interesting in that run, but I hate how Blake's story was left hanging with him merging with a symbiote and not being followed up on. As much as I like Mac Fratchen's run, turning Blake into a villain was a huge mistake for his run. It made him look pretty pathetic. I agree. At least in Donny Cates' run, it was tragic and compelling with Blake having to become a force to be reckoned with and hearing his plight of how he didn't ask to be made and later abandoned, even though he did some awful things and should be have to answer for him. Uh, Makes you want to give him a hug. Why do I have spots in my glasses and it's only when I'm trying to read that I see them? That's weird. Anyway, similar to what happened between Thor and Donald, where they became one again, because honestly, that's why Thor is awesome and why Blake is necessary. Yeah, I know there's plenty of other Marvel characters with split personalities or multiple entities in one body, not to mention plenty of good stories with the two in one, pun intended, nice one, dynamic for Thor, and I love those two, but damn, Blake doesn't deserve to be left behind like that. Probably have to read Straczynski's run where he did that with Thor because I didn't see that. But yeah, it actually sounds pretty damn interesting. A Wright, 73, also seemed to indicate that he likes the run. So there's that. If you guys disagree, hey, by all means, say something, mention something. I'd love to hear from you. And yeah, I'll read the stuff online. But and I'll get to some of those comments in a minute. But for me, yeah, I would say this is a good run. It's not a great run. This is not the Immortal Hulk run at all. I was also so extremely disappointed to find out that the Immortal Hulk run ended because Al Ewing was upset with the politics and the political beliefs of his artist. Can't remember his name right now, but I'm friends with him on Facebook. And like this is just a guy from like someplace in South America who loves America, which would make him on the right, I guess. I I don't understand how loving America is a political that's so weird to me. And how you ended a run because you didn't like somebody's politics. Here's something that's annoying to me. And we're talking about Thor versus Storm in this, and where Al Ewing kind of shows his face. Al Ewing kind of pops up like Noob Saibot and Toasty Ed Boon, you know? He shows his face in this, and this is the exact wrong thing to do. Thor has to summon some people to come and help him out against Toriamos, whatever you want to call him. And he decides to form the Thor Corps. 5 people Thor. Thor himself being one of them. He brings Jane Foster, which I get it. That's necessary to bring her along. Brought Loki and made Loki one of the Thor. Loki cannot lift Mjolnir. I don't care what any goofball writer says and what dumb editor says. Okay, I don't believe that Stan Lee, Larry Lieber, or Jack Kirby would have said, yeah, 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 absolutely. Loki is in some way worthy. I do not believe that at all. This looks like The Rock doing his thing. I think at one point The Rock is going to be doing this, be like, yeah, yeah, acknowledge me, and he's going to turn around and point just like that to Roman Reigns. It's the little gun thing. I think that's what's going to happen at some point. Quote me now. But he also brings in. Did I say Beta Ray Bill already? That was the first one he brought in, which is the smartest one to bring in because he was the first. And then he brought in Storm. I could also see that. I do believe that Captain America should have been brought in instead of Loki. Bringing Loki in was just dumb. Loki should have been the sixth wheel in this particular case, doing the teleportation back and forth. But whatever, it is what it is. He made Storm an absolute B, like BITC. You get what I'm saying, right? Made her horrible in this. Storm is powerful. Storm is egotistical. I think that she's kind of borderline narcissistic. And this is part of the reason why we love her so much, right? There's going to be some people who don't like Storm. It is what it is. Storm genuinely believes that she's a goddess. She is not a goddess. She is a mutant. All right. There are exactly 0 gods in the universe that can have their powers taken away by a mutant nullifier, as has happened with Storm. I didn't write those comic books. All right. I just read them and I remember them. But that being said, I love that Storm thinks that she's a goddess because that's how powerful she is. And the power of belief in yourself, you know what I'm saying, is is really what powers us to move forward. Storm will kick almost anybody's butt. Is she as powerful as Thor? Clearly not. Clearly not. I think that the reason why she was so upset, and this is just my, what do you call it when you're doing fan theory? Um, what do you call it? I think she's so mad because the wind is what summoned her, right? Hugin and Mugen, the crows, the ravens, they showed up like, "Hey, you're being summoned, Aurora." And she's like, "What? No, summon me. I'll pluck you. I swear to God, I will pluck you and I'll tar you both and put your feathers on the other one and vice versa. Don't do it. Don't even do it." So what happens is she says, "I'm not going," whatever it also, and then the winds come by and suck her up anyway. The winds of all things. If it was just a teleportation portal that just went zoom and took her in, probably wouldn't have ticked her off so much. But it was the winds. She couldn't control the wind. The winds were making her fly, but she couldn't control the winds enough to say, "No, don't take me in." So I think that really ticked her off a lot. But here's where we kind of get the angry feminist character who's beating up on a man and the man just has to take it and God forbid don't ever hit her back, right? She's summoning lightning to start like do what I say now. Your immediate answer wasn't yes, ma'am. Therefore, setting down electricity, lightning on him and whatnot. You know what I'm saying? Like go lick a light socket. No, even worse. And he's like, "Please stop." And she's like, "Excuse me? Are you going to pray to me now?" Something to I'm exaggerating on that part. It's like, "I wasn't talking to you." And then the lightning misses. This must have ticked her off also. Because apparently Thor's not the only one who's caused her shots to miss. Because she says, "I'm getting kind of sick and tired of finding people who are making my shots miss." Kind of shows you're not a goddess. But I get it. I get it. Clearly, Storm cannot beat Thor in a fight. because he's able to take things that her body simply could never ever take, right? I do like the idea that she was fighting a war, she didn't really have time for someone else's war. I hear you scuff, but at the same time, after the fight was over, what'd she say? "Oh, clearly this was actually pretty important, wasn't it?" Right? Now I can see that it was necessary that you summoned me. So, mind you, I didn't write this. Al Ewing wrote this. All right? Be upset at Al Ewing for writing her this way. I'm simply interpreting this, right? All she had to do was shut the hell up and listen. But he goes and writes her as this angry black female. I like again, I didn't write this. I'm reading this. Makes her the angry black woman. Doesn't want to listen to reason. Will jack you up. And don't you dare hit me back. Mm-mm-mm. I'm surprised she didn't do that. This was clearly an important thing. And it was only going to take a few minutes anyway. But he needed help, needed her specifically. Help. And she's all like, and the way he writes her, my God, I don't need your power. I don't want your power. And she's smiling. Ooh, I got the power. The power's about to run out. Like, here, Storm, take this. Touch it again so you keep your power for another 60 seconds. She's like, give it to somebody who wants it. She could have just like juke. But no, she takes it, throws it back to somebody else so she keeps the power. In fact, who's the first person who complains that they're losing the power? It's Storm. You see her half the power is gone, and she's like, "We're losing our power." Blah 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 blah. I thought you didn't need it. I thought you didn't need it. Literally making Storm to be such an unlikable character. She's already got pre-narcissistic, belief in herself. You know what I'm saying? And then you actually make her into an unlikable character. I don't like the way she was written in this at all. You know what I'm saying? Causing Thor's ears to bleed and all with the pressure and whatnot. If he would have one time been like, "Oh yeah, let me show you what I could do." Do you think that she could take a lightning bolt? And, and we've seen that as mad as Storm can get, da 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 da, she can't make lightning the way that Thor can. You know what I'm saying? She simply can't. We've seen Thor even just in these books showing that he doesn't need the hammer to call down lightning or to use the storm and whatnot. Like, it's ridiculous the way that she was written in here. She was so weak, but talking a big game. Here's the thing that really kills me, though. Forget about the way he wrote Storm. It's the way that he poked his face in this. I hate this. He jumps in and he has Thor say, they're always trying to see, can I out arm wrestle the Hulk or can this hero beat that hero? They don't understand. It's all about what's called for and blah, 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 blah. That's really cute. With all due respect, Mr. Ewing, shut your stupid mouth. And I love this guy. You guys see my interview with Al Ewing? I respect the hell out of the guy. But there's some things where to his face, I would say, Al, shut up. You want to have an interview and say these things by all means, but don't do it in the comic books. Don't do it. Don't have Thor say something stupid like that. Do you remember Kelly Thompson, one of the greatest writers comic book has seen modern day, right? She said in my interview, she said in the interview that I did with her, she says, I hate superhero battles and guessing like which one is more powerful than who and blah, 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 blah. She said that in an interview, which a lot of people were upset about. I had zero problem with her saying that because in her writing, she wrote an amazing battle between Thor and Captain Marvel. She had it so that Captain Marvel won, but it took an entire day to do it. And she had to cheat. She disguised herself so that she didn't look like Captain Marvel. She banked on the idea that Thor was going to hold back big time, and she was like, "I can't hold back the slightest bit." Guys, think about one of the greatest writers that we've seen still alive today, Mr. Frank Miller. Trained by Jim Shooter, taught how to make comic books by Jim Shooter. Goes and makes one of the best Daredevil runs ever, and immediately goes off and writes The Dark Knight Returns, where Superman fights Batman for the very first time. And everybody's like, how is Batman going to stand up against Superman? And Batman wins. And every single one of us are like, oh no, that was believable. That was realistic the way he did that. because it just made so much sense. Obviously, in a one-on-one fight, there was no chance. He had no chance. He knew he had no chance, but he still won. And what he says, remember how it could have been. All this, and we were just like, oh my God, if this is how Batman fought Superman, this is how he would fight Superman. And we've never seen another fight this good. The second best fight we could possibly say between these two was the Long Halloween, where Batman's got the little kryptonite ring and he goes against Superman who's got the poison ivy stuff on him. And he's like he clearly is incapable of holding back, clearly incapable of not following poison ivy's commands, but he's able to delay it long enough so that Batman has time to dodge and stuff like that and try to get out of Dodge, right? Dodge City. Anyway, some of the greatest battles that we've ever seen. Why? Because we kept our personal thoughts out of it. We gave the fans what they wanted. Al Ewing talking about, I hate the idea of superhero who's stronger, da 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 da. Do you remember back in the 90s through the 2000s? And even today, once in a while, we see the official the official handbook of the Marvel Universe, multiple issues, like an encyclopedia talking about the power ranks of every hero and villain imaginable. Do we not know? We don't remember those? They made a new multi-volume set every single year afterwards. The 98 version, the 99 version, the 2000 version. They had the 93 version, the 92, the 88 version. Like for years, they were making all this money off of talking about the power rankings of these heroes. I don't know. I guess Shooter understood the idea that, hey, you give the fans what they want. Kirby and Lee, they understood, give the fans what they want. They love seeing these guys fighting and whatnot. You know what I'm saying? What's this? The problem with the guidebooks is that they contradict the comics at times. Absolutely, they do. Absolutely, they do. And we don't care. We just want to see it. For crying out loud, these books. Eh, the that's a little dusty. Wow, that was a lot dusty. That's what I get for keeping them on a bottom shelf rank. But the Marvel superheroes advanced role playing game, the face rip rules and all that stuff. Like, bro, this is stuff that we love. As comic book fans, we love this stuff. We love seeing the heroes fighting each other. We love there are YouTube channels like Danco that the only thing they do is have superhero battles, and they get way more views than I get. Al Ewing, give me your personal opinion in an interview. Do the interview at the back of the comic book for all I care. Do not put your face in the comic book in Thor's voice, talking about, oh, I hate da 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 da. With all due respect, Mr. Ewing, shut up. Shut up. The fans know what they want. Nobody cares what you think inside of a comic book. We want to see these people fight. That's why the issue number 3 or 4, whatever it was, where Storm was fighting Thor, people were just like, oh my God. I put up polls on Twitter or people who were like, oh my God, this is amazing. No, there's no way Storm could beat Thor, but still, oh my God, I want to see it. Da, da, da. Of course. Of course. Don't insert your politics in the comic books. Don't insinuate your beliefs in a comic book. Don't give me your opinion in a comic book. Save that crap for an interview where we could say, "Oh, okay, that's a very interesting opinion. I disagree with you, and I'm glad that your writing disagrees with you because this is clearly what we want." Don't sit here and start trying to teach us and guide us as you do in a comic book. That's just infantile. Don't do that. Anyway, for all intents and purposes, I'm enjoying these Thor comic books right now. I really am. Are they the best thing in the world? Are they anywhere, close to what the Immortal Hulk was? No, they're not. But it's still good to see Thor kicking some butt, taking some names. Thor smiles when he knows that you don't stand a chance, that he's a god, that he could wreck you at any moment, but he's holding back, right? This is the kind of stuff I really appreciate seeing. I do. So So far, so good. Let's see what happens as we go on. Let me check a couple more of these. It was completely Scuffindi says it was completely to character. In my opinion, she is as arrogant as her people need her to be. You're not wrong. John Wright, Frank Miller used the plot armor that Bruce Wayne had to its fullest. You're not wrong. J Mucho 99. The problem with guidebooks. Oh yeah, I read that one. S- Scuffendy says Storm was also not Omega level previously. They retconned that. That's something that's one of the main reasons why I got off of the X-Men comic books for the most part. If everybody's an Omega, then nobody's Omega. You know what I'm saying? Omega suddenly ceases having any kind of meaning whatsoever if everybody's an Omega. I made the joke one time. Is Wolverine Omega level at healing? You know what I'm saying? Like, come on. Like, this is so, is he smoking an Omega level cigar? Like, this is so dumb sometimes. No, Storm should not be Omega level. It's the weather, for crying out loud. All the cool things she does with it is fantastic. But let's be realistic. The four elements as, magic and other, cultures see them as earth, fire, water, and air. If Arrow came along and started making wind powers all over the place, could Storm just come along and be like, "Nah, I'm just gonna take that stuff off." I don't think that she should be able to. Because if your power is specifically the wind, it kinda doesn't make sense in character for you to, you know what I'm saying? For Arrow, at least, because she's so ridiculously powerful and she's awesome and she should be in a whole lot more comic books, but it is what it is. Having control of the storm is a very different kind of thing. To me, it's like this is a very specific power set. I'm not talking about like earthbenders, airbenders, da 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 da. She's something completely different. She's there. She's in the conversation because she interjects herself in the conversation and you got to listen to her, right? But she's kind of on the outside. She's not really in with the four elements. She's out here someplace. Major relationship to one, but not really, right? But it's all the things that she's able to do with the storm that just makes her so unbelievably epic. I love seeing all the crazy things she does, right? I love her attitude. I love everything about Storm. But the idea that, a weather control power is such an amazing thing. It's so specific, right? It's like you're talking about like if the moon was gone, technically Storm shouldn't be able to have any control over the weather anymore. You know what I'm saying? If the polar ice caps were changed, Storm would lose her ability to control the weather and it would be completely chaotic until she figured out the new poles. You know what I'm saying? If the electromagnetic spectrum got screwed up, she wouldn't be able to use her powers anymore. They would be actually dangerous to her. You know what I'm saying? Like, there's just so much if there was no atmosphere anymore. There's so many factors that go into the idea that, I'm sorry, you're not that powerful. You're just not. But it's all the crazy things that she could do in very specific, general, but specific environments. That's what makes her such an amazing character. It doesn't have to be that I'm a goddess. I could summon a storm. Lady, if I could put you in a vacuum and you can't do your powers anymore and you pop, you know what I'm saying? While your tongue is burning, your eyes are burning, don't sit here and tell me that you're a goddess. You know what I'm saying? Because you're simply not that powerful. Your only ability can be taken away by any specific circumstance. Don't tell me that you're that powerful, right? But I love her cockiness. I love the attitude. I love all of this stuff about her, and specifically the ways that she used her power. It's so impressive. You know, um, they're still awesome to read, though. 100%. Couldn't agree more. Well, thank you. Thank you very much. The power levels of comic book heroes and villains waxes and moves depending on who the writer is. Unfortunately, I have to agree with you on that, which is why you should have better editors. Better editor. I like it. Sorcerer Supreme Storm is on a different level. I'm sorry, what now? There's a Sorcerer Supreme Storm? Sick. They retcon Storm's power from atomokinesis to weather manipulation. I actually don't know what the difference for that is. It was always weather manipulation from my understanding. So they added the atmo kinesis to weather manipulation. Because even in the books I just showed you, even in the official handbooks of the Marvel Universe, it was always called weather manipulation or weather control. That's weird. Um, she can fly between worlds. She can fly between worlds now. See, things like that, that just doesn't make sense to me. Now, if that were going to be her, you know what one of the biggest failed things with the X-Men is to me? The whole uh second mutation. That was the dumbest thing in the world to me. Remember, uh I think Gambit was the biggest fail. Oh, he's blind, but now he can see the future with tarot card. Like, get the fuck out of here. That lasted for one issue because the fans were like, "This is stupid. I'm done." And they're like, "No, no, 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 wait, look, it's Gambit again. It's the real Gambit." Wolverine was suddenly able to commune with carnivores. What are you talking about? I'm sorry. Have these people never read comic books before? Because he was always able to do that. He always had a certain understanding with the wolves specifically. Always. Always. So he has a second mutation, this power that he's always had. What? But if they're going to do some kind of a secondary mutation with her or something like that, that would actually be pretty cool. If in fact it went beyond the idea. But you'd have to be smart. You'd literally have to be Jack Kirby smart. Jack Kirby used to sit down and he didn't have all these fancy degrees and whatnot. He would sit down and he would read through scientific magazines and he would start understanding the way that this worked, that worked, and all these different things work. When Jack Kirby was was working on what the heck was he working on? Crap, he was working on something where all of a sudden the FBI called him and were asking, like, how did you know about the way that nuclear bombs were going to work and da 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 da? Because he was writing this stuff back in the day, and then they dropped Nagasaki and Hiroshima, Fat Boy and Little Man, or reverse names, whatever. And they're like, how'd you know about this stuff? And it turns out, no, this only made sense that this sort of thing was possible. What are you talking about? I didn't have access to any government stuff. He was a very intelligent man. If you had somebody who was that intelligent doing this, they'd be able to figure out a way to do that. I don't know. I'm not a comic book writer. I'm sure I could think of something, not here on the spot, but kind of. But yeah, it's just the idea. Like you have to have your brains about you. You have to understand it. She probably makes an air bubble and accelerates it. Yeah, that's interesting. It's kind of like so she's a Green Lantern now, right? That's what the lanterns do. Anyway, I'm gonna finish this one off. A whole lot of fun, guys. Last thing, my Kickstarter. I wrote these two books for Dungeons and Dragons. I'm probably gonna just cancel the Kickstarter and find a different way to get these books out to people. It doesn't seem like most people are interested. I actually wrote real whole entire books for Dungeons and Dragons or any kind of a role-playing game. This book is all about traps. This book is all about riddles, right? The two things that everybody seems to neglect when they're making their role-playing games for Dungeons and Dragons, Lord of the Rings, Call of Cthulhu, whatever things you're playing, right? I love these aspects. So I wrote two whole entire books about them. They're on Kickstarter right now. If you're interested, go grab them. I do not have the backing that I wanted to on the first day, or even this first week. The first week isn't even over yet. But yeah, if this doesn't pick up, I'm just going to cancel it. I'll just try and figure another way to get these books out to the people who actually want them. I know this is a comic book channel, but it is what it is. Anyway, guys, I will talk to all y'all later. Love, peace, and hair grease. Like the video, watch an ad. Professor Bill, Comic Book University. Class dismissed. Also, yes, thank you for coming out.